Hello again and welcome to my channel. So, we are now on the episode 4 ng Business Taxes series ko and we are still on the other percentage taxes, particularly section 123 to 127 of the NIRC. Of course, updated na po to sa create and bayanihan law na mga changes. This is again Gletzmar B. Igcasama and I will be your teacher for today. Now, if you wanted to have or to see the other videos, episodes 1, 2, and 3, you have two options. The first option, you can go to the description. There are links below. And if you don't want to have the links, you can go near the end of this video and there are suggested videos that will lead you directly to the previous episodes. With that, let's start. Now, let's start with section 123. So, this is for life insurance companies or agent or corporation doing business in the Philippines. So, if you are one of them, you'll be taxed at 2%. Pero saan nakabase? Of course, nakabase yan sa life insurance premiums na nakolekt ng inyong company. However, meron tong dalawang twist. Ito po yung twist number 1, which states na if isa ka sa mga companies na cooperative companies kahit na may life insurance operations ka or else associations dito sa Philippines na meron ding life insurance na operations or else nandito ka sa Philippines doing business pero non-life insurance company ka naman or else life insurance company ka nga pero you are not doing business in the Philippines, so like mga foreign life insurance companies. Kung isa ka dito, you will not be subjected to the taxes ng section 123. So ganun kasimple yung twist number 1. Yung twist number 2 is medyo mahaba siya. And this talks about mga life insurance premiums that might have been included here pero dapat tanggalin mo because they are not taxable. Actually, there are 4 items. Number 1, sa hindi taxable, are the refundable premiums within 6 months after payment ng iyong client. So, ibig sabihin, if you have advance collections from your customers, tapos i-refund mo rin naman after 6 months, dapat hindi na to taxable kasi isusuli mo rin naman. Yung number 2 na premium na hindi taxable is what do we call as the insurance premiums received from a company that has already paid the tax. So the question is, ano tong reinsurance premiums? So the normal transaction if you are a life insurance company, for example, ikaw tong si ABX Life Insurance Company, the normal transaction is meron kang mga clients na ini-insure yung life nila, so they're going to pay life insurance premiums. So, ito yung normal. Pero actually, mayroon ding cases na yung client mo is an insurance company. So, since insurance company to, meron tong ina-assume na siguro na mataas na risk, tapos gusto niyang ipasa yung portion ng risk na ina-assume nila sa'yo. So, meaning, dapat magbayad sila ng reinsurance premiums. So, yun yung meaning ng reinsurance premiums. The next question is, bakit itong reinsurance premiums that you are receiving is not taxable? So, it is because ganito, if ever insurance company to, meron din tong clients na nagbabayad ng life insurance premiums. Tapos etong life insurance premiums, ito yung source ng reinsurance premiums na binabayad ni XYZ sa ABX Life Insurance Company, which is tayo. So if that's the case, we are going to assume na if si XYZ Life Insurance Company is doing business here in the Philippines, na-tax na tong life insurance premiums. So, ibig sabihin, dapat talaga hindi natin na-tax itong reinsurance premiums that you are receiving. So, ganito lang to kasimple. However, meron pang isang twist. So, what is that twist? What if si XYZ Life Insurance Company is a foreign corporation or foreign insurance company? Matatax na ba yung reinsurance premiums coming from them or hindi? Hindi pa rin if ever yung XYZ Life Insurance Company na foreign has already been taxed na ng foreign government or foreign country. So, If that's the case, we can summarize this number 2. Sa number 2, if ever you receive the insurance premiums from a life insurance company, kahit na doing business in the Philippines or not sila or foreign sila, as long as they have already paid the tax like this one, nagpay na to ng 2% tax rate, at saka pag foreign, if ever si foreign country has already taxed the XYZ life insurance company, kung foreign nga siya, then dapat yung reinsurance premiums again na na-receive mo from your insurance companies na clients should not be taxed and should be deducted from here. So, yun yung number 2. Ito yung number 3 na hindi taxable, which are the insurance premiums paid by a non-resident if it is already taxed by the foreign government. So para maintindihan to, let's have an illustration. For example, ikaw pa rin si ABX Life Insurance, tapos nasa main office ka, and the main office is in the Philippines. Pagkatapos, meron kang branch, and that branch is situated on India. Of course, etong branch mo, maaari itong tumanggap ng life insurance payments from non-residents ng Philippines. So for example, mga Indians to. So etong life insurance premiums na nakuha ni India, malamang i-remit to sa main office or sa iyo. So if that's the case, dapat daw etong life insurance na nakuha from non-residents should not be included dito sa life insurance premiums na isa-subject sa 2%. Bakit? Baka kasi etong life insurance premiums that was collected by your branch is already subjected to foreign taxes. So, yun lang tong number 3. And lastly, we have the number 4, which is excess of premiums necessary to insure the lives of variable contract policy holders, which is mas maganda if ever i-illustrate na lang kaagad. So, sino tong mga variable contract policy holders? Ito po yung nagbabayad ng premiums. For example, may isang nagbabayad ng premium na 10,000 per month. Pero actually, etong 10,000 per month is divided into 2. May portion na ginagawang investment lang. So meaning, for example, kung 6,000 per month yung investment, tapos 4,000 lang yung napupunta talaga sa life insurance na policy, then sabi dito sa number 4, etong 6,000 is excess of premiums to. That is not necessary to insure the lives of the variable contract policy holders. So if that's the case, etong 6,000 na premium per month sa isang policy holder should not be included here. Ano lang yung ini-include? Eto lang 4,000 na necessary to insure the lives of variable contract policy holders. So yun lang yung number 4. So let's have a summary dito sa section 1, 2, 3 para tumatak talaga to sa inyo. Again, if you are a life insurance company or agent or corporation doing business here in the Philippines, you'll be taxed under section 1, 2, 3 ng 2% based sa life insurance premiums na nakolekt mo. Pero may mga twist. Twist number 1. So if ever isa ka sa mga cooperative companies or associations or non-life insurance companies dito sa Philippines, or life insurance company ka nga pero you are not doing business here in the Philippines, then you will not be subjected to section 1, 2, 3. So hindi ka taxable nito. At saka yung twist number 2 states na hindi talaga lahat ng premiums na nakolekt mo is subject to 2%. So merong 4 na hindi taxable. So the first one is the refundable premium within 6 months after payment ng client mo, at saka yung reinsurance premiums that you have received from your insurance companies na clients if they have already paid the tax. Like for example, kung foreign sila, ang foreign government is tinax na sila, at saka if ever doing business sila sa Philippines, since their original life insurance premiums na nakolek from their original na mga kliyente has already been taxed here, so hindi na dapat tinatax tong reinsurance premiums. At saka itong number 3, which is similar to this one, pag meron kang insurance premiums paid ng isang non-resident, of course, hindi na rin yan itatax ng 2%, lalo na if ever the life insurance premiums na binayaran ni non-resident has already been subjected to foreign taxes. At saka yung number 4, if ever may mga premiums excess premiums na hindi naman talaga necessary to insure the variable contract policy holders. Like for example, etong 6,000 per month na example for investment. This should not be included sa life insurance premiums to be taxed at 2%. So that's it for section 123. So section 124 na tayo. And actually, this is for tax on agents of foreign insurance companies. So take note, agents ng foreign insurance companies lang. So actually, these foreign insurance companies are those insurance companies that are not operating here sa Philippines because they are not allowed. Pero kung gusto mo pa ng mas specific, etong section 124 prescribes a tax for unang-una, non-life insurance companies na foreign insurance companies pero dapat hindi related sa life insurance. To be specific, ang minention dito sa NIRC are those insurance companies na nagbibigay ng fire, marine, and other miscellaneous insurances. And aside from being a non-life insurance company, dapat daw yung foreign insurance company is not doing business in the Philippines because again, they are not allowed to do that here. Ang allowed lang is yung agents, and those agents are actually collecting premiums in the Philippines. So you need to memorize these three. Tapos, pag na-memorize mo to, i-check mo lang, dapat check to lahat. Tapos, pag check lahat, you'll be taxed at 4%, which is double kaysa sa tax rate doon sa section 123. And the basis is pareho lang, insurance premiums collected ng agents. Again, pareho din doon sa section 123, hindi kasali yung mga reinsurance premiums that you are receiving because again, malamang tinax na yon. So, that's section 124. Pero meron pang nakasaad na additional information sa section 124 which is owners of property that obtains insurance directly with foreign companies shall be taxed at 5% based on the insurance premiums paid by the owner. So para maintindihan to, let's assume na for example meron akong property dito sa Philippines and I chose a foreign insurance company para i-insure yung property ko. So if that will be the case, since hindi ako nagpa-insure sa mga companies na andito sa Philippines, then I will be taxed at 5% sa mga insurance premium na na-pay ko doon sa foreign insurance na company. So yun lang po yung section 124. Again, pag non-life insurance company ka, especially if ever fire, marine, and miscellaneous insurances lang yung binibigay mo. Tapos, you are an insurance company not doing business in the Philippines, so foreign insurance company ka, and only the agents are allowed and are actually collecting premiums in the Philippines, you'll be taxed at the double na rate kaysa sa section 123 which is 4% based on the insurance premiums collected except the insurance premiums. At saka, if you are an owner of a property here in the Philippines and you opted to be insured sa foreign company, then meron kang tax na babayaran based on your insurance premiums paid to the foreign insurance company times 5%. So that's it for section 124. Section 125. So this is for amusement taxes paid by proprietors, operators, or leases ng we have high alay and racetracks. So meaning, if ever you are a proprietor, operator, or lessee ng high alay at racetrack, meron kang babayaran na amusement tax. So etong dalawang to, sugal to. Pero I will make it clear though, etong racetracks are for horses lang. So pag racetracks are for motorcycle and racetracks are for cars, for example, hindi to included dito sa section 125 because section 125 again, racetracks ng horses lang. Ang pangalawa na mga proprietors or operators or lessees na taxable under section 125 are night, day clubs, cabarets, and cockpits or sabungan. Aside from this, we have also mga proprietors at saka mga organizers ng professional basketball games are also liable for amusement taxes. And aside from that, we have boxing exhibitions. So, etong mga proprietors dito at saka operator nito are liable for amusement taxes. So, bakit nakahiwalay ito? kasi iba-iba sila ng tax rates. Now, let's go to the tax rates. So, ang pinakamahal na babayaran is itong mga operator ng high alay at saka racetrack ng horses. So 30% yung tax rate nila. Sa night and day clubs, cabarets and cockpits, 18% lang. At saka pag professional basketball games, 15% lang. At saka boxing exhibitions, only 10%. So I arrange it from the highest na tax rate na babayaran to the lowest. Pero ano yung basis nila? Yung basis ng mga rates na to is the gross receipts ng mga proprietors. Pero itong gross receipts, yung twist nito is that including yung receipts from other related activities. So anong ibig sabihin nito? So we have our example here. Receipts from selling of food and snacks in the food court. For example, you are an operator ng high alay at saka racetracks. Tapos meron ka mga customers, of course, yung mga tumataya. So para mas lumaki pa yung kita mo, nag-open ka ng food court, selling food and snacks. Yung receipts na nakukuha mo doon, if you are the operator also, will be taxed at 30%. So, medyo malaki. Unless you are not the operator ng food court. So, ganun lang kasimple yung meaning ng twist na to. At saka meron pang isang twist. And that is a boxing exhibition. Kasi pwede tong maging exempt. As long as nandito itong tatlo. Una, World or Oriental Championship dapat yung nakataya sa boxing exhibition. At saka, number 2, dapat kahit isa or at least one of the contenders for the World or Oriental Championship is a citizen of the Philippines. At pangatlo, dapat daw etong organizer nito or promoter nito should be a citizen of the Philippines. If tao ang pinag-uusapan. But if we're talking about a corporation or association, at least 60% of the capital should be owned by resident citizens ng Philippines. So pag check tong tatlo, etong boxing exhibitions will be exempted from the tax under Section 125. So madali lang tong Section 125. So Section 126. Section 126 is for taxes on winnings and prizes on racehorses. So with emphasis sa winnings and prizes on racehorses. So racehorses lang talaga. Because if you have other winnings and prizes, they will not be taxed here sa Section 126. They will be taxed in other sections of the NIRC. So pag, for example, you won or you have dividends, you will be taxed at 10%. Tapos, that is based on your winnings or dividends less cost of the ticket. So, ganun lang kasimple. So, if ever tumaya ka sa racehorse and you won, you'll be taxed at 10% based on the winnings or dividends less cost of the ticket. Pero if ever tumaya ka tapos nanalo ka, sa double forecast, trifecta at saka kinilya, medyo mas maliit yung tax rate. It is because mahirap talagang manalo dito. So 4% based pa rin sa winnings or dividends less cost of the ticket. So bakit mahirap dito? For example, dito sa kinilya, you need to choose 2 horses. At saka itong 2 horses, dapat mag first at second talaga to sa actual. Tapos, it doesn't matter kung sino sa kanila ang mag first at mag second, mag rumble sila. Wala tayong pakialam, basta pasok sila sa first at second. Ito yung kinilya. Pag trifecta, medyo mas mahirap tong trifecta kaysa sa kinilya. Bakit? You are going to choose 3 horses. Tapos, for example, you chose horse number 1, 2, at saka 3 na mag-first, second, at third. Dapat talaga sa actual, ganun din yung pagkakasunod-sunod para manalo ka. So, meaning, dapat si horse number 1 talaga yung mag-first. Kasi pag naging second yan, hindi ka na mananalo dito sa trifecta. So, again, 4% lang yung tax if ever you have winnings on double forecast, trifecta, at saka kinilya kasi mahirap manalo dito. So the 4% will still be based sa winnings or dividends less cost of the ticket. So let's have an example. Example, Mr. Gletz won 25,000. The cost of the winning ticket is 1,000 pesos. So how much is the tax on winnings? Of course, let's have the winnings first. Tapos less cost of the ticket daw. So meaning 25,000 minus 1,000, the taxable amount is 24,000. And you multiply it with the tax rate of 10%, so the taxes na babayaran ni Mr. Gletz is 2,400. However, yung twist nito is that pag nanalo ka, hindi ikaw yung mag-remit nito sa BIR. So, which is nice. So, wala ka nang masyadong problema because this is to be withheld by the operator. So, meaning, bibigay sa inyo ng operator tong 25,000 less 2,400 na. Tapos, etong operator na ang magre-remit doon sa BIR within 20 days from withholding. So, yun yung sa winnings on racehorses. Pero meron ding prizes. So, if ever we're talking about prizes, ito po yung mga prizes ng mga owners na nanalo ng mga racehorses. So, ito, if ever isa ka dito, you'll be taxed at 10%. Tapos, etong 10% na to, the basis will be the amount of prices. So, walang less cost of tickets because yung owners ng racehorses ay hindi naman bumibili ng tickets. So, that's it for Section 126. So we are now on section 127, which is the last section for this video. However, etong section 127 is very long. Actually, there are 3 parts nito. And we're going to talk about these 3. Tapos, imamaster talaga natin tong 3 para mamaster natin yung section 127. But if you are going to summarize the section 127, ito ay nag-i-impose lang ng tax on sale of shares. So, wag na nating patagalin pa. Let's have the part 1. The part 1 is that taxable daw under section 127 etong sale, barter, exchange, or other disposition of shares of stock listed and traded through the local stock exchange other than the sale by a dealer of securities. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Because it's difficult. So, i-break natin to into 3 scenarios. So, dapat in these 3 scenarios, you need to assume yourself as the seller of shares. So, again, you are selling shares. So, the first scenario is, what if you are a dealer? Pag sinabi nating dealer, the selling of shares is the ordinary course of business mo. So, meaning, you buy shares and then you sell them if ever para magka-profit ka. So, if you are a dealer, you're not under this section 127. Kaya nga sinabi dito, other than sale by a dealer of securities. So, saan ka subjected? You will be subjected to a tax rate of 12% na VAT. And the basis? The basis is total selling price less cost of shares. Yun yung taxable na amount, which is unique. Because if we're talking about value-added taxes, normally, itong 12% will be multiplied sa whole na total selling price. Hindi sa total selling price less cost of the shares. So meaning, para tong exception na yung 12% will not be taxed dito sa total selling price, it will be taxed sa total selling price less the cost of shares. So yun yung scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. You are still selling shares, pero non-dealer ka na through direct selling. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang ibig sabihin nito, your selling of shares is not the ordinary course of your business. So, meaning, siguro investor ka lang ng mga shares, tapos ibinenta mo to earn a profit. Pero hindi ito yung normal na operations mo or day in, day out na operations mo. Through direct selling, anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang ibig sabihin nito, you are selling shares that are of a closely held corporation or mga maliliit na mga corporations na yung shares nila are not traded in the local stock exchange. So, ito yung ibig sabihin nito. I-add na lang rin natin na dapat yung shares that you are selling should be shares of a domestic corporation. So, balikan natin to. Ito yung opposite ng mga public corporations. Public corporations like Jollibee, San Miguel Corporations na yung shares nila ay normally sold at the Philippine Stock Exchange or local stock exchange. Etong mga shares na binibenta mo dito sa scenario number 2, meaning nito, mga maliliit na mga corporations na shares yung binibenta mo. And if you are in this scenario number 2, you'll be liable not again sa section 127 na tax rate. Instead, you'll be liable sa 15% capital gains tax. Etong capital gains tax is not under section 127. Again, the capital gains tax na 15% is not under section 127. This is part of the income taxes, tong capital gains tax. So, saan ibabase itong 15% na capital gains tax? Ito is to be based sa total selling price less cost of the shares. Yun yung taxable amount. So, magkatulad siya dito. sa scenario number 1. So, yun yung scenario number 2. Yung last is you are still selling shares tapos non-dealer ka pa rin pero through local stock exchange na. So, what is the meaning of this? So, since non-dealer ka pa rin tulad dito sa scenario number 2, you are still selling shares but not in the ordinary course of business. Pero yung kaibahan, etong number 2, the shares that you are selling are already publicly traded in the local stock exchange. Meaning, the shares that you are selling ay yung mga shares na ng public corporations like Jollibee Foods Corporation and San Miguel Corporation. So that's the difference nitong scenario number 3 sa scenario number 2. Dahil the shares that you are selling here sa scenario number 3 is shares pa rin ng mga domestic corporations. So dito lang talaga sila magkaiba. So if you are here, then you'll be taxed at 0.60% or 6 over 10 of 1%, or if in decimals, 0.006. Tapos, kahit na maliit tong tax rate, the basis is the total selling price naman. Hindi tulad nitong dalawang to na based sa total selling price less cost of the shares. So, eto yung tinutukoy dito sa section 127 part 1. It's the sale, barter, exchange, or other disposition of shares stock listed and traded through the local stock exchange. Tapos, other than the sale of dealer of securities. So again, ito yung sinasabi ni section 127. So para tumatak to, meron tayong illustration and that's coming right up next. Andito pa rin tayo sa section 127, part 1. Tapos, kanina, we've talked about 3 different scenarios. So, para tumatak tong 3 different scenarios, meron po tayong illustrative problem. So, the illustrative problem is, Mr. Gletz purchased 25,000 shares of ABX company for 500,000 or 20 pesos each share. So after a few days, Mr. Gletz sold all the shares for 40 pesos each. So find the taxes due based on the following scenarios. So scenario number 1, dealer ka. So pag dealer si Mr. Gletz, of course, the solution is selling price muna 1 million. Tapos the cost is 500,000. Actually, this selling price na 1 million is from 25,000 shares times 40. So, yung selling price 1 million. So, the cost is 500,000. So, the taxable amount is 500,000. Diyan imumultiply yung 12% para makuha yung VAT payable na 60,000. So, ganun lang kadali pag you are going to apply the scenario number 1 that we have talked about a while ago. So, scenario number 2. Mr. Gletz is not a dealer of shares and the shares of a domestic corporation were sold directly. So si ABX company, which is the owner ng shares na pinurchase ni Mr. Gletz, is a domestic corporation daw. However, hindi daw to publicly traded ang mga shares ni ABX company. So, it were sold directly, not through a local stock exchange. So, anong mangyayari? Pareho lang yung pagkuha ng taxable amount. However, this taxable amount will be subjected to 15% capital gains tax. So, meaning the capital gains tax payable ni Mr. Gletz, if ever, is 75,000. That's 500,000 times 15%. And then again, I'm going to repeat, this is not part of section 127. It is an income tax, etong capital gains tax. And then we have scenario number 3. Mr. Gletz is not a dealer of shares and the shares of the domestic corporation were sold through a local stock exchange. Ito na yung under sa section 127 na part 1. So anong mangyayari? So instead of using selling price tapos minus cost, yung selling price, yung taxable amount kaagad. So this is unlike this scenario number 1 and scenario number 2. And that will be multiplied by 0.6% or 0.006 sa decimal. So you're going to get a percentage tax of 6,000 which is called the stock transaction tax. So medyo mas lower talaga siya kaysa dito sa dalawa. So, that's it for our illustration for the part 1 ng section 127. I hope you understand. Now, let's go to section 127 part 2 because I assume na naintindihan nyo na tong part 1. So, sa part 2, ito pa rin ay taxes on selling of shares. Kaso, it's related on the initial public offering. So, again, this Section 127 Part 2 is imposing taxes on the initial sales of shares to the public. So ano tong initial public offering? So it would be better if ever meron na tayong illustration kaagad para maintindihan nyo ano tong initial public offering. So we have here our illustration. So si Mr. A, B, C, D, and E formed a closely held corporation with 50,000 shares each na may par value na 10 pesos. So the total number of shares is 250,000 kasi nga 50,000 each sila. Tapos, closely held corporation pa daw. So that means etong corporation na to, yung shares are not yet traded in the Philippine Stock Exchange, as well as we can also conclude that this corporation is still small. Now, continuing the illustration, after 3 years of operation, they decided to sell additional 100,000 shares to the public for 50 pesos each for a total proceeds of 5 million pesos. Ito yung initial public offering na sinasabi. Nung last, sila lang exclusively. Ngayon, they are selling additional 100,000 shares to the public. So, ito yung initial public offering. So, as you can see, sa initial public offering, they had a proceeds na 5 million. So, meaning, merong tax dapat tong 5 million na nakuha nila. Pero, paano natin makompute yung taxes or stock transaction tax under Section 127 pag initial public offering, particularly this illustration? Ito yung dapat mong gawin. Step 1, get the ratio of newly issued shares, yung bagong shares na in-issue sa public over the total number of shares after the public offering. So, based on this illustration, you have 100,000 new shares na binibenta sa public. Tapos, 350,000 yung overall shares, which is the total number of shares after public offering. Kasi, nung hindi pa nag-public offering, meron ng 250,000 shares. Tapos, after the public offering, 350 na yan kasi may bagong ibibenta na 100,000 shares. So, 100,000 new shares over 350,000 na overall shares. Then, the ratio is 28.57%. So, bakit natin kukunin tong 28.57%? Because dito nakabase yung tax rate if ever. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? So, actually, according to Section 127 Part 2, so yung ratio mo, if ever, 25% or below, yung tax rate is 4% based on the proceeds. Tapos, if ever, 25% yung nakuha over 25% but not over 33.13%. So, the tax rate is 2%. Tapos, if ever, over 33.33%, the tax rate is only 1%. So, kailangan mo talaga tong kunin because the ratio is the basis kung ano yung tax rate. So, etong tax rate na nakuha natin again will be based on the selling price or the proceeds from the initial public offering. So, applying these concepts sa itong illustrative problem natin, our answer for the question how much is the stock transaction tax to be paid under Section 127 is the tax rate is 2%. Why? Because 28.57 falls under this range. Over 25% siya but not over 33.33%. So meaning 2% ang appropriate na tax rate, and we multiply that sa proceeds na 5 million pesos, and we're going to get a stock transaction tax under Section 127 Part 2 na 100,000. So ganun lang to kasimple. Again, nagbabayad pa rin based sa proceeds ng initial public offering yung mga companies. However, ano yung rate? Yung rate is nakabase kung magkano yung ratio ng newly issued shares over the total number of shares. So, pag 25% or below, 4%. Pag 25 to 33.33, 2%. Pag over 33.33%, 1% na lang. So, yun yung Section 127 Part 2. Actually, may twist. So, the twist is na-repeal na to yung taxes sa initial public offering. So, na-repeal na to noong last 9/15/2020 at ang nag-repeal is ang Bayanihan Act 2. So, tinanggal to. So, meaning, wala nang taxes on initial public offering under Section 127. Let's go now to the part 3 of section 127 because I am assuming that you already understood this part 1 at saka yung part 2. So ano tong part 3? Part 3 is all about taxes to be imposed on secondary offering of shares. So ano tong secondary offering? So it would be better if ever meron na din tayong illustration for this one. So we have our previous illustration na si A, B, C, D at saka si E formed a closely held corporation with 50,000 shares each with a par value of 10 pesos. So the total number of shares lahat-lahat is 250,000 because 50,000 each sila. After 3 years, they decided to sell additional 100,000 shares to the public for 50 pesos each for a total of 5 million. So, ito yung last na illustration. May idadagdag lang tayong isang sentence. So, si E, the old shareholder, ayaw niya sigurong maging part ng corporation na. It is because hindi siguro siya favor na i-public offering yung 100,000. So, he sold his shares na 50,000 shares for 45 pesos each or for a total proceeds na 2,250,000. Ito yung sinasabing second offering whereby etong si old shareholder dinispose yung shares niya on the IPO na schedule. So, ano yung tax niya? Because naka-receive siya ng 2,250,000. So, medyo katulad lang din ng initial public offering, you need to compute the ratio. Kaso, yung ratio is disposed shares over total number of shares after public offering na. So, ano yung dinisposed niya na shares? 50,000, 'di ba? So, 50,000 new shares yung numerator. Tapos over 350,000 overall shares, which is the total number of shares after public offering. So, the ratio is 14.29%. So, this 14.29% is a subject to, again, direkta, the same sa initial public offering dito. So, meaning this 14.29% is under this 25% or below. So, 4% yung tax rate. So, pag gagawa tayo ng solution sa illustrative problem na to, we have the tax rate is 4%. Tapos, i-multiply mo ng proceeds niya from the secondary offering. So, we have 2,250,000. So, 4% times 2,250,000, we have stock transaction tax na 90,000 na yung magbabayad ICE. So, hindi siya katulad nung sa initial public offering na ang magbabayad ng tax is of course yung corporation. So, that's it for part 3. However, since these taxes on secondary offering is part of the paragraph 2 ni section 127, na-repeal din to last 9/15/2020 ng Bayanihan Act 2. So, mag-iingat pa rin tayo even if na-repeal to noong 9/15/2020 hanggang ngayon. However, if the problem is yung before pa ng 9/15/2020, so meaning the provisions ni section 127 sa initial public offering at secondary offering is still effective. So you need to be careful. So you need to consider the dates palagi. So that's it for this video, and if you understood this and if it helped in your studies, please click like and subscribe and share these videos to those who need it. Salamat.